The LSC Student Advising Chatbot was a project that Lone Star College initiated after reviewing some pain points that advisors were having around a lot of informational time um, with students coming to them instead of being able to have an sort of an online resource. So they were sort of using a lot of their appointment times and relationship building times to answer very simple informational questions like how do I register for class, how do I drop, how do I get a hold removed, which is traditionally things that advisors sort of help with in their appointment. But what we were finding is that they were not really able to spend enough time building those like meaningful relationships and like really doing real like career and academic pathway guidance with them because they were sort of doing a lot of back and forth. Yes, you have a hold. Yes, you need to go to a different office to have that hold, taken care of. And so they were really struggling to find a solution to be able to have assistance with some of those informational questions so that they could spend more time doing relationship building. So what we proposed to do was to take an existing tool that we had, Ivy AI, and create an internal to our system student chatbot that focused on advising admissions and financial aid information. So what we did was we did a 12-week sprint. So we gathered advising and admissions officials from all over Lone Star College to come and sit with us one Friday a week for 12 weeks. And we started extracting what kind of information the students were asking over and over again. We looked at our online chat uh, transcripts. We sort of reviewed help desk tickets. We looked at a lot of different information and decided that building a chatbot knowledge center would really help students be able to sort of get real-time and anytime information on those informational advising questions that they were constantly asking their in-person advising sessions. So we brought all of our advisors together. We started out by telling them not to worry that the chatbot was not going to remove, the need for person-to-person advising, but it was really going to act as sort of like an assistant. It was going to act as an assistant um, to help give students immediate access to some of the very basic informational questions that they needed answered. And so once we started approaching it that way, they sort of lost a little bit of their nervousness around the AI component and chatbot component, which seems very sort of sci-fi and highly technical when you've never really worked in that sphere before. It was really quite good. So what we wanted to do was, in those 12 weeks, was to develop about 250 questions that the chatbot would answer, and then build those resources around there to fact check and validate that information, and make sure that the chatbot was consistently giving the correct answers to those questions. It was a very interesting process because we have 7 different campuses, physical campuses, and plus 1 online campus. So what we found was that some of the methodology and workflows were slightly different up between our campuses. And so we actually, I feel like, resolved some of our non-standard workflow processes through working with advisors throughout the system so that we could make sure that the bot was answering as many questions as accurately as possible. It was a really great working with advisors for those 12 weeks. They took great ownership of the product and their mission of like making sure that, we had as many questions answered in the bot as possible. And so I really feel like we launched the bot on April 1st, and we had immediately thousands of students using the bot. We've been launched a year, March 31st of this year. We hit 1 year, and we have had over 70,000 conversations with students. And based on our average appointment time, in which advisors were spending part of those appointment times on those informational items, we have saved almost 10,000 hours of advisor time in the last year of our chatbot being up. So we really feel like we've exceeded our goals there. We have very regular usage. We have very regular enhancement cycles for the bot, and our advisors are really excited about how the bot project has worked out. And LSD is going strong, and we are looking forward to enhancing the student experience and our advising model to sort of enhance that student experience going forward. This was one of our first chatbot projects to do. We had some public facing chatbots before that were just highly informational, on our missions, processes, and things. So we sort of had a miniature model of how to approach the project. What we were aiming for was, we wanted to hit 75% accuracy in our first 30 days with, on our 250 questions that we put into the bot. And we were hoping, like, we were kind of naive, right? Like, fingers crossed, we will hit 75%. And so once we sort of did all the established our knowledge base and pushed it out for student testing, we were quite surprised that we hit we hit 88% in our testing phase. So we kind of went back and reevaluated some of our responses. We cleaned up a few things and moved some knowledge around and streamlined some things, and actually polled students to see, well, of these 250 questions, are we missing any? When we sort of gathered that information back, we went back to advising and worked on some of those additional questions and features that the students had requested. And so our final, we have stayed right around 96% accuracy on our top 250 questions. And so really our metric is, our baseline was about 88% whenever we launched. And so we wanted to maintain that or higher as we enhance the bot across the 12 months that it's been live. So we've consistently been around 96%. And for all questions after the bot, we're about 75% confidence rate on our responses there. That includes every question, like what's my address, just anything that they ask. So we're really very happy with that. But our one goal metric was to have the advisors come back and tell us that they had been able to reduce the amount of time that they spent on those informational tasks with our students, since that was our original goal. And so we set up sort of a metric and calculation prior to launching the sprint to understand how much time they were actually spending on those interactions. So we compare that with the number of conversations that the bot has, times, particular amount of minutes that they were spending. And so that's how we get our number of hours saved. And anecdotally, we communicate back with our advisory team to get their feedback on whether they hear about students talking about the bot, they hear, the answers being mentioned, and if they are actually experiencing less time spent on those informational items. And we get really good feedback from our advisors across the system for that. So we feel like our metrics are pretty solid. And as we do enhancement or additional features on the bot, we try to stay right within our, 95 to 96% accuracy rate is sort of our benchmark.